News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. We're in the second hour of this live broadcast. Great to have you all with us. Really appreciate it. And again, big thank you to our last guest. Got great reactions in the chat room about Freddie Ponton and his take on European affairs. Now, we're going to pivot somewhat to another theater of concern, that is the Middle East, but also this is connected very much to U.S. foreign policy, to European foreign policy as well. I want to welcome onto the line a political commentator who we're following on X, Twitter as well. His commentary is very pertinent and really right on the pulse of the issue right now. Alon Mizrahi is joining us on the live link right now. Alon, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Patrick. Thank you.
Alon, a few things I want to really talk to you and get your take on. But before we do that, if you'd like to introduce yourself for those people who aren't familiar with who you are, and the types of ideas you are contributing to the conversation right now. But if you'd like to, go ahead.
I'm Israeli. I grew up in Israel and lived here my whole life. Basically, I'm a Mizrahi Jew, which means a Jew originating from Arab countries. So there's us, mostly in the US, in Europe. You used to seeing Ashkenazi Jews, mainly white Jews, but there are other Jews, brown Jews and Arab Jews from Muslim and Arab countries in the Middle East. So we have a little bit different political perspective and historical perspective and so on. So I'm kind of a radical. I wrote for some Israeli newspapers. I wrote for Haaretz and Ma'ariv and some other outlets and local call. If some of you know it, you can call me a radical Mizrahi, left-wing, soft anarchist in a way. But it's been a journey for me. I wasn't always like this. I started as a good Zionist kid in Israel from a working class family. And everybody talks about deprogramming now. So I did my own deprogramming and unlearning, really. The whole structure that Zionism pours into our heads about the story of reality, who came from, what we're here to do, what's our mission, who are the people we live with or we are up against, and so on. So I had to reconstruct a whole new story, which helped me to liberate myself and helps me to liberate others from their stories, from their perspectives. And for many misconceptions about Zionism in Israel.
And tell it. So I would assume you also served. You would have served in the IDF, like everybody. Yeah. Just tell us. So when was that, and what was that experience like, and how has that informed you about what's happening right now with Gaza, for instance? But if you'd like to share that with us, we'd love to talk about it.
I served in the early 90s. In the Gaza Strip as a soldier of occupation, basically, with very little political awareness or understanding what the situation was, because no one ever talked about it. It's like an open secret. What we do with the Palestinians, what we do to Palestinians, no one talks about it. And so when I met it myself, I had to. It's a whole new experience. You don't know what to make of it, because you finally meet the people you're always told you are your enemies, your devout enemies who want to kill you and who are bad people, human animals, terrorists, and so on. But when you're there, you see just people. You just see people. They may not be in love with you, but why would they be in love with you? You're a soldier telling grown-up people, I was like 18, 19, telling people twice my age where to go, how to talk, how to stand, if they can pass or if they can't pass, what time they can leave the house. So at this young age, I didn't know what to make of it. It took me a really long time to conceptualize the words for it and understand the meaning of it. It took me a really long time, but it made very stark the dissonance between the propaganda and reality. So I needed to fill this gap and to make it close this gap. But I became like aware, conscious of its existence as a soldier in Gaza Strip and a little bit in Hebron. So yeah, I saw it with my own eyes.
And tell me this, Alon, when you were deployed back in the early 90s, under very different conditions than those who are being called up now as conscripts or reservists, they're going into a very different situation here. What's that like? And I know you probably spoke to enough people to get an idea of what is the mood, what is the, just on that deployment level to the IDF, a young soldier or a reservist, how eager are they to fight this war? I'm sure it's different conditions maybe than in the early 90s, especially the last 8 months. How would you, what have you heard? How are have things changed in attitudes, in your opinion?
Israeli society underwent a transformation, and in the past generation or so, in the past 15 years or so. I mean, the occupation has been with us almost 60 years, and Zionism is problematic in the way it treats Palestinians and sees Palestinians. It was always this. I've heard like horror stories about military service from my father, from people from previous generations. So I'm not trying to make the reality what it was not, but we went through something very bad, and at least a kind of half acknowledged, to something completely bad and completely denied. And how these two things can go together, it's hard to say, but this is the reality. I mean, the dissonance I was talking about earlier, now is a lot more, I don't know, how to understand, how to make sense of. Because on the one hand, we are the most moral army, we are the best people, and on the other hand, we can do to those people whatever we want, but we don't do it, and you just say that we do it, but we can do it if we want to, and they deserve it, but we don't do it. It's so crazy. So I think it's very hard for Israelis, especially young Israel. Listen, Netanyahu has been prime minister for an eternity. They don't know a different reality. They don't know a different Israel. So they've never been in Israeli politics where it's legitimate to talk about the occupation. It's not legitimate to talk about the occupation anymore. It used to be when I grew up, when I was younger, but now it's just completely an off topic. You're not allowed even to bring it up. Even the Israeli left wing, the liberal Zionists, don't talk about it anymore. So you can only imagine what happened to people who were already right-wing, who were already accustomed to dehumanizing Palestinians. What happens to them when even the very mention Palestinian humanity in any context is totally forbidden. It's a taboo. You can't do it. So our whole society goes crazy. This is what happened to Israel, and I think this is what the whole world can see now. It's very clear. You don't need a very sharp political analyst to tell you this. And I think that many people are I don't know, dumbfounded, amazed at what they're seeing. It's the kind of open evil that people don't know what to make of. What to make of it? What does it mean? Because we are used to, we used to imagine people hiding the evil actions, right? Israel is not hiding; it's flaunting it. Everything is on camera. The soldiers they wear women's dresses in Gaza. I mean, how fucked up is that? And everything is out there. So I think there's at least for everyone who is a little bit, political and involved and interested, this is an experience, like a life-changing experience. This, I think, changes what people, I would say, almost understand about human nature. Because we've never seen, I mean, everybody had their own share of atrocities. The Americans in Vietnam and in Iraq and other places, we've seen it. I mean, we're not naive. But it was always at least partially hidden. And when it was found out, there was some debate and there was shame about it. It wasn't comfortable. But Israelis seem to be totally fine with it. They're not trying to hide. They're not ashamed. So this, I think, comes as a shock to many people from the international community.
No, certainly. It seems, Alon, I don't know how best to describe this, but it seems like the objective, the strategy, isn't a military victory. It's total annihilation, and that seems to be the people calling for the continuation of this. They want nothing else but total annihilation. They say of Hamas, but what about in Israeli society? Do a lot of people just see the Palestinian presence as a problem, that somehow the solution would be for them to pack up and leave? What does the average Israeli think about this?
After October 7, I've heard from Israelis who were very left-wing. I don't have right-wing friends anymore for a long time, but Israelis who were very right-wing, very left-wing, sorry. They said things like, I don't care if they kill all of Gaza. I don't care anymore. Let them kill all of Gaza. Let them kill everybody. So this demon, there's like a collective demon that went free after October 7. The things that were not so nice to say, now you can say without a problem. And I think that there's a deeper layer to this. It's not. I mean, of course, there's this layer of annihilating, destroying, killing, ethnically cleansing the Palestinians. There's that, and it's huge. But I think from a Jewish point of view, there's I see it as almost a death wish. It's almost something suicidal. This is people working to create the worst image of Jews possible. And they are doing it, in my understanding, they are doing it in order to guarantee control over the Jewish narrative and over the Jewish political body. This is how you isolate Jews from the world. You make them hated, you make them afraid, because now everybody hates you. So you need to come together, you need to defend yourself and so on. But I see a process of creating this almost intentionally. Not surely consciously, but there's intent behind this. This is because you see a country doing unbelievable, terrible stuff and not engaging with anyone while doing so. It's not like someone said, listen, there was a massacre and we found a mass grave. What about this footage? And you would see some kind of a normal reaction that you would expect from any other place, saying, this is either really embarrassing, shameful, this is not what we do. We will. You don't see this. You see a kind of disdain, kind of fuck you. Yeah. Kind of this is what you do, go fuck yourself. people don't know. We've never seen this. You've never seen a Russian general being asked, what about the 200 civilians in a school in Ukraine, for instance? And the general said, what can I do? It's a mistake, yeah. Next question. We never seen this. This is the first time we're witnessing such behavior. And I think that because Israeli society and because Jewish, especially this wing of Jews, okay, this who have this weird understanding of history, okay, and what it means and what it says about them. So they always have this in mind. So they always work fully aware of their self-image and the kind of image they want to have for themselves and the kind of image they would blame you for having about them, but they actually want, because it makes them stronger politically. This kind of isolation and hatred actually makes some, I don't know how to call it, sects, groups of Jewish politicians and Jewish, lobbyists or whatever you call it. They feel that it makes them stronger. I think this is a terrible mistake. I think this is a delusion, because this doesn't make you strong. Being hated, even if you're supported by America, I mean, America is not eternal. America is not going to be an empire for all eternity. This is the nature of life and history and politics. Things change and evolve. The world is changing. You cannot bank on one country being able to, rescue you, do everything for you and get you out of any situation and actually helping you when you're doing the most self-destructive stuff. I mean, this is a very bad strategy to have, but this is what Israel is doing. And this is what, to an extent, AIPAC and ADL are doing in the US. This is the same kind of mentality. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say and try to answer it in a way that recognizes you, respects you. I don't have to agree with you, but I can recognize that there's validity to what you say. But this is not their style. They will call you an anti-Semite. They will insult you. They will try to silence you. What kind of a way is that to conduct yourself in a very dynamic, very changing environment? So this is part of the reason I'm speaking out as loudly as I do. I'm trying to introduce some measure of sanity to the Jewish conversation. I mean, we have to do it because there's going to be a tomorrow. I mean, this seems like it's going to go on forever, but it's not. It's going to end this way or that way, and people are going to ask questions. And I'm thinking about that day. I'm thinking about tomorrow. What happens next?
Yeah, it seems like at least the Netanyahu leadership is only thinking about right now and how to get from one day to the next. There seems to be short-term motivations that are governing their decisions, survival decisions they're making. What do you say? I think, Alan, you also put that in your tweet recently where you were basically criticizing Netanyahu, the statement he put out, you didn't want to post a video so as not to traumatize people because it was so toxic. I think we agree with you there. But you basically said that, this idea of creating a catastrophe or being hated by the world is actually a central part of the narrative of Zionism that to tell you as children, the world hates you. There's only one safe place for you in the world, and that's Israel. And so anything that reinforces that, and this seems to be what unconsciously, I agree with you, unconsciously, this is what's happening. I'll quote you. The narrative will play out wonderfully with Netanyahu's right-wing base, you say, who just love the paranoia and are simply eager and pulsating to feel abandoned by America that finally revealed its true, quote, anti-Semitic face. They crave this more than anything else, except maybe the total catastrophe rivaling the Holocaust, which will prove once and for all that they are God's chosen people. I mean, those are powerful words on your part, Alon, but you have captured a real truth there, that there's a type of insanity in the thinking, in the method that we're seeing, especially from this leadership. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think this quote that you just read sums up perfectly what I think about this. I mean, Netanyahu only thinks about and caters to a certain segment of society, and also a very small part of the Jewish brain, or the Jewish, consciousness, which is this part of you're being persecuted, you're being haunted, everybody hates you. And he has been doing this for all throughout his career. He's been doing this since the 80s. I remember Netanyahu during the 90s when there was an attempt to make the Oslo Accords, and Israel was doing some terrible stuff, and Israelis were doing some terrible stuff, like the terrible terrorist attacks committed by Jews and then by Palestinians, and it was a period of we didn't know where things are going, like make or break kind of period. And I remember Netanyahu going to places like there would be a terrorist attack in Jerusalem or in Haifa or in some other place, and he would chase those incidents and go there and give interviews from the scene to say to people, look what they are doing to us. Look how terrible this is. Look at our situation. They are killing us and we are not doing anything. And they are butchering us. And this felt so wild and so out of line with traditional politics in Israel, because people didn't used to do this. I mean, there was always cynicism. There was always, we have this really bizarre habit of making death, glorifying death. I remember Trump, 3 or 4 days after he became president, I think, there was an operation, I don't know where it was, in Somalia, and a soldier died, so they brought his wife to Congress, and he made a speech, and everybody was applauding because she was the wife of an American hero. And I was thinking, this is nuts. Why are we creating this glorification of it's not good to die, period. This is not the kind of culture that we want to create. So there was always that, but Netanyahu took it like a notch further and actually went to the scene where people just died like a half hour ago, and he would give these incendiary speeches about. And he had more and more of a control over the Israeli psyche. It became stronger and stronger, and took over the media, took over newspapers, took over news channels, and he was focused on that, on shaping the narrative. This was his biggest concern, always. So if Israeli society was half sane, half insane, or something close to it, depending on the day, he just drove it over the cliff. into the abyss, and there's no sanity in them to speak of. And I think this stems from Netanyahu's own very extremely damaged psychology, because he's a deeply damaged human being. He is not normal in any way. He is not normal. If you put his speeches on mute and just look at it, you'll be revolted. Your body will react to this in a very negative way. There's something very disturbed and sick, but ironically or paradoxically, I don't know how to call it, he got to such a position of power, both in Israel, but as regards Jewish organizations in the US and the American Congress. Yes, I think he's the single most powerful person in the West right now. And he may be the craziest. So
I don't think
this puts us in such a, I don't know, if we survive this, and I'm serious, we're going to look back and we find it hard to believe that this was actually going on. That someone like Netanyahu was given so much power to do so much damage over such an extended period of time, with the whole world watching and seeing. And the same shit. I'm sorry if it's okay I say shit on air, but
it's okay.
What's happening with Biden? I mean, are we supposed to believe this is the person leading the U.S.? Would this person be able to lead a company of 50 people? A classroom? No. To drive a car or a bicycle? I don't know.
No.
There's on the one hand, this gap between how historic and potentially catastrophic this time is, and the kind of leadership we have, and that's like an all over the place. I mean, who is Rishi Sunak? Who the hell? What is this? The British Prime Minister. He's like a kid. You don't believe he has any charisma, or he makes decision, or he can pass through like his vision and his. It's the same way almost every way you look. I mean, you don't know what the Australian Prime Minister or the Macron, but he's a kind of a clown. Like he's not Jacques Chirac or people or Mitterrand. People you could agree or not agree with, but they had weight to their persona. I mean, you took them seriously. We can't take those people seriously, and it's hard for us to believe they actually navigate this. So you have basically Netanyahu's insanity and derangement, like taking the West down, and this is on top of this crazy policy of the Democrats and Biden of going to war with Russia in Ukraine. This internal war that they are never going to stop. They're going to keep on funding. What's wrong with you? I spent a few months in the US at the beginning of this, and I was shocked. I mean, the levels of homelessness. I'm not saying this as like a put down, but there's so much. I mean, the roads, all the stuff that needs correcting and fixing and addressing it in America. And they are sending all these hundreds of billions to accomplish what? Maybe start a nuclear war, while also fighting with China over Taiwan. I mean, what are those people trying to achieve?
Yeah, they're busy waving. They're waving Ukrainian flags in Congress, and next week or the week after, they'll be waving Israeli flags because Benjamin Netanyahu is doing this glorious trip to Washington, which you can be sure, Alan, that congressmen, senators, they're all going to be standing and sitting, standing, clapping, standing and sitting, 40 standing ovations. And at the same time, this actual person is in the dock in the International Criminal Court for war crimes. I mean, it is the most extraordinary point in history, and it speaks to a collective madness. And I mean, that's one issue, but you followed the career of Netanyahu for many years. You understand the mentality. You've heard that, you've seen the political evolution. What is his ultimate motivation? Does he see himself as the next, a Ben-Gurion figure, the man who solved the Palestinian problem and won Gaza? What is he? Is he motivated by his legacy in the Israeli Pantheon Hall of Fame? What how do you see it?
I think it's this, but it's also much more ambitious than this. He wants to be a messiah for the West and even the globe. So he wants to rid humanity of Iran. He wants to rid humanity of any Arab independence in the Middle East. This goes a lot beyond, much over the borders of Palestine and Israel. This is much bigger. I mean, he encouraged the U.S. Do you remember this? He was sitting in a hearing in Congress telling, I promise you that if you take off Saddam, it's going to have huge positive reverberations throughout the Middle East. These are his exact words. I mean, he was pushing America to go to all these wars. So this is the kind of super colonial, white colonial insanity of trying to engineer really humanity, engineer whole continents. I'm going to have this regime here and this regime there and those people here, and actually play like it's a chess board. And I think that in his mind is this Jewish hero for history who saved Jews from the greatest danger, and this has to be for the biggest cinematic effect. He needs to save them from the biggest danger. So he always has to flirt with more and more danger, and have this brinkmanship that gets wilder and wilder and wilder and always deteriorates the situation. And of course, he counts on the U.S. to always come to his rescue. I mean, if Israel and Hezbollah go to war tomorrow, I think this is the end of Israel. This is my opinion. But of course, the U.S. is going to be involved. And then what if Iran gets involved? Then you have Iran on your hand. And what happens to Saudi Arabia and all those regimes that you kind of stabilized? The whole Middle East is we don't know what's going to happen with it. It's going to be completely different, and maybe America will be kicked out of it for good. Because I don't think that if the U.S. goes to war with Iran and Hezbollah in the Middle East, it's anywhere near or short of victory. I don't see America sacrificing 500,000 American men to accomplish this goal. I mean, I don't see it. I just don't see it. In this day and age, who's the president that's going to be able to, to create this kind of patriotic mobilization and sentiment? People are not there. People have moved on. This is not the world we live in. And this is not the America of today. So they are playing a very dangerous game very stupidly. And Netanyahu has this complex that he has to have this central historic role as savior of Jews, but at the same time savior of the West and quote-unquote Western values, which we all see what they are really every day, with children's skulls blown up. We can see it with our own eyes. And I think that this is what happens to people who lose contact with reality. I mean, in 25, 30 years ago, Netanyahu had some residual sanity. He could, if he didn't experience reality, he could at least remember reality. What people think, what they are going to do. But now there's only his imagination. He has no contact with real people. He's been behind protection and all this apparatus for 40 years almost. He doesn't know where he lives. He doesn't know Israel. He doesn't know what a grocery store looks like, what an Israeli workplace or street look like. He has no idea. I mean, he talks to only his kind of people in Israel and all the crazy Bible people from the US, like the John Hagee. So he gets crazier and crazier. This is like, it's spiraling, gets worse and worse, and you can see that. You can see that. Like a decade ago, Netanyahu wouldn't have been in this kind of situation. He would have stopped like a few months ago. He would have said, find some kind of negotiation. Yeah, maybe Hamas leadership would make this like ritualistic departure from Gaza and going to Algeria. I don't know. But now it's, and I don't think he has a real strategy. I think he thinks one step ahead, and this step ahead is the US getting involved in a bigger war, because as far as the Israeli story goes, Netanyahu has no place to go. He can't like reverse back into normalcy. Israel is not going back to normalcy. You can't do that. After everybody says we want to kill millions of people and fight with the whole world and fuck everybody, and everybody is in anti-Semite and US, what, you're gonna sit and watch Netflix and do your taxes and walk your dog? And it's not how life works. And you have all those people, the radical right in Israel, the religious right, all the settlers. It's a big and powerful political group. They're not going back to normal. They see the slaughter in Gaza as like an end of days promise. It's like, you see we can do this. You see we can do this. They didn't think they could do it like a generation ago, but now they have this, oh, we can actually do it. We can actually kill 1 million Palestinians, or 2 million, maybe 5 million. Who's going to stop us? Not Biden, maybe not Trump. Maybe we can pull it off. I don't think they can. They're going to hit a wall in the shape of Hezbollah or Iran or both, or something we are not seeing now, because there's always some unknown factor. Maybe Turkey, flips, or Egypt undergoes some kind of, it goes back to the ends of the Muslim Brotherhood, or some new party we haven't even heard of. So it's not something you can plan to this degree, this kind of crazy. But they are so guided by the messianic and apocalyptic vision, they can't see reality. They can't think like normal people. They just can't.
We just have 2 minutes left, Alon. I appreciate you joining us today, of course. You mentioned the clash with Hezbollah along South Lebanon. A lot of residents have left the settlements, the kibbutzes in the northern territory of Israel, and it doesn't look like many of them are coming back. We're talking about, well over 100,000, correct me if I'm wrong. So that whole idea of securing people from around the world can come and be safe in Israel, and that they'll be protected by the IDF, and that everything's fine and it's going to be secure and come live the dream, that's a central part of the entire Israeli story. And it looks like it might not be able to hold right now, and it could get worse. Won't that just kind of destabilize the entire Israeli internal narrative? We just got 2 minutes left. I'll give you the floor. Go ahead, Alon.
Yeah, I think it's already destabilizing Israeli society. And there are so many Israelis. Almost in every Israeli family has someone who lives abroad already, or plans to live abroad. I hear this conversation in Tel Aviv, or friends from Tel Aviv, or from other places all the time. This is like the hardest conversation today. People are finding it harder and harder to see a future, to imagine a future. I mean, when you can't imagine a future someplace, this is like a big red flag, right? And you can see like plan 5 years into the future. So what are you doing? And when this war breaks, because I think it's breaking 100%. When this war breaks, it's going to be the last straw for many Israelis, like the stronger Israelis, the more successful. I hate this word successful, but the richer is people with more resources and more access to resources. People who have the companies, the connections, the physicians, the engineers, the high-tech people. They're going to be the first to go because it's going to be easiest for them. And then what are you left with? So yeah, the picture is green for Israel. That's the truth of it.
No, certainly there's a lot of reflection that needs to happen, and quick, because as we both know, Alon, things could actually get a lot worse even than they are now, and they're pretty bad right now, but they can get worse.
A lot worse. I think this is the stretch we're in right now is going to look like heaven in a few months, because I have a feeling one of these days Netanyahu is going to give an order to assassinate Nasrallah, because they're going to know where he is. They can do that. They will drop a bomb of, I don't know, a ton, and maybe kill him. They will do something like this, or just this, and then all hell breaks loose. Because the war with Hezbollah is not going to look anything like the war with Hamas. It's going to be something on a whole different scale, and Israel is not even remotely prepared for this, not militarily and not, in terms of society.
Yeah, no, that's wise words.
And this has been going on for 8 months. It's a long time that this is going on.
Alon Mizrahi, thank you very much, political commentator. Listen, follow Alon on X, Twitter. We've tagged him on a show post. We really appreciate you talking to us today here at TNT, Alon.
Thank you.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Great segment, Freddie Ponton as well. That's all we got time for today. Patrick Henningsen, your host, signing out. Take care, you guys. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. All the best. Stay on TNT, State of the Nation.